The interview with BJNN is brought to you by Biz Events, connecting the Central New York business community through events.
A state senator since 1993, John DeFrancisco serves a district that includes much of Onondaga County and parts of Cayuga County. He currently serves as Deputy Majority Leader of the State Senate. Earlier this year, Senator DeFrancisco launched a campaign for the Republican nomination to be Governor of New York. He suspended his campaign when Dutchess County Executive Mark Molinaro secured support from a majority of Republican and Conservative Party officials. A native of Syracuse, John attended Christian Brothers Academy and later Syracuse University, where he was captain of the varsity baseball team and graduated with a BS from the School of Engineering. In 1971, he received his law degree from Duke University. He served as a judge advocate in the Air Force from 1972 to 1975. Returning to civilian life, he was appointed Assistant District Attorney in Onondaga County and remained in that position until 1977 when he went into private practice. His public service includes 11 years on the Syracuse Common Council, including serving as council president. He previously held the positions of president of the Syracuse City School District Board of Education. He also served 2 terms as president of the Central New York Leukemia Society and was a member of the organization's National Board of Trustees. Senator DeFrancisco and his wife Linda reside in DeWitt. They have 3 grown children and 8 grandchildren.
That's correct.
That's correct. Good. John, the first thing I wanted to ask you about is kind of non-political. In your role as an elected official and as a Central New Yorker, you've been involved in many projects in the region. The Case Theater comes to mind, as does Ophelia Place in Liverpool and Casey's Place, another place. How would you describe what you've been able to accomplish with these projects?
Well, each one is so different. There's not a real theme. And one of them was the Cord Blood Center up at the old community hospital campus that's run by Upstate. Each of these things appeal to me that could help people. For example, Casey's Place, a group of women who had children with multiple handicaps that needed around-the-clock treatment, never got to socialize with anybody, and the parents never got a chance not to be providing some services. So Casey's Place provided that vehicle where these kids could have some socialization and the parents could have some respite time. And it's one of my proudest achievements, and it still goes strong, as we say today. Cord Blood, we heard a lot about the use of stem cells to help people. Well, one of the things that was being thrown away as medical waste was the placenta and the umbilical cord on deliveries. And that is rich with cord blood. And there's no moral issues about embryonic cells, abortions, or the like. And to me, it seemed like a logical mix. Well, it took me a long time, but we finally got it opened about 1.5 years ago, and it's working now well. And each one, it depended on 2 things. It had to have, in my mind, a good public purpose and that could help people. And secondly, the people who I was dealing with had to be someone that could get it done. You would be shocked the number of times that people have wonderful ideas, and you try to provide funding and you provide some seed money, and they go nowhere because it just didn't have the capabilities. So the key is to find the right projects, and second, find the right people that you know they're going to get it done.
In your years of public service, have you learned how to discern those people early in the process?
Oh, yes.
How do you do that?
Well, early in the process, I can get a feel quite easily for whether people are sincere. There's a lot of non-profits that are in existence basically to provide jobs for their CEOs. And I could see through that pretty clearly. I used to require a form that you have to file with the IRS, the nonprofit, that shows who the paid staff are and what they make and that sort of thing. You could get a pretty good idea early on whether these people are in it for themselves or for the cause. Secondly, as you're there longer and longer, you deal with more and more people, and people are very free in answering questions about others that are making requests, and you're able to make that work. Sometimes I was wrong, but for the most part, we come up with some good projects.
Okay. Now, you've been an elected official for 4 decades, and I wonder, from those 4 decades, if you might have some advice for voters when they have to go to the voting booth and pick somebody.
Well, I think the most important thing, and it's difficult this day and age, but the most important thing is to know the candidates. I don't know how many people tell me or call me, who should I vote for? I mean, look to see what people stand for. Look what their backgrounds are. Try to figure out whether this person, like I mentioned earlier, is in it for themselves or that they got a true feeling for public service. And sometimes that's tough because you're seeing a 30-second soundbite on a TV show and the person sounds great, but if you don't agree with their philosophy or their positions, sounding great doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense for the reason that you vote for them. I think that's the most important thing. Nowadays, it's tougher because with social media, people can be cut apart. They could be the most person with the most integrity and most character and with the good motives, and false stuff can come on the internet all the time or by social media. There were some things said about me that just made me cringe. If they were true, I wouldn't like myself. And so it's tough to find the right balance as to what is the good information, and but you really got to figure out who the candidate is and what that person stands for.
And what about on the other side, when you talk to people who are aspiring to follow you into public service? What advice do you give them?
Well, the most important thing is to realize that there's a lot of notoriety, but there's a lot, it's very difficult to live in a fishbowl. No matter what you do, it's going to be criticized by some, and others are going to be thinking you're the most wonderful person ever to hold office. And the point is that you got to balance that and realize that you got to have pretty thick skin because you're going to be a target. But if you're tough enough and you're the person that just is enough confidence in yourself, you'll do the right thing. But you got to know what you're getting into before you start pushing for a job. And every once in a while, I'll talk to a senator and they'll be complaining about this or complaining about that. And my stock response is always, just think of how hard you worked to get here, what you had to do to get elected. And then they'll calm down a little bit and say, well, wait a minute, I get you. So I think that's the most important message I can give.
Okay. I want to take you back in history. You were elected in 1992. 2 years later, George Pataki was elected governor. I checked. That was the last time a Republican won statewide for the first time. He won re-election, but no one has won for their first time statewide election as a Republican. What's it going to take?
Well, that was a special year. I still have my button, a big button with Cuomo's name in it, Mario Cuomo, with a big arrow through it. At that time, the philosophy was anybody but Cuomo. And I said when I was running around the state trying to get the Republican nomination that this has the same feel to it as back then, because Andrew Cuomo, there's a lot of people that are dissatisfied, whether you're from the left, like Cynthia Nixon and Stephanie Miner, or from the right, if you're the chairman of the Conservative Party. A lot of dissatisfaction. So the elements are there. The difficulty for a Republican has always been the size of the vote down in the New York City area. Think about this. When President Trump won, Hillary Clinton got 2 million more votes than he did out of New York City, out of the 5 boroughs. And that's pretty much what happens in state elections as well. There's got to be a huge upstate vote to counteract some of that, or apathy in the New York City area, or dislike for that candidate. So I think, quite frankly, I believe that the atmosphere is there right now. And if you have a third-party candidate, whether it's Stephanie Miner or Cynthia Nixon or somebody else, siphoning away some of the vote on the left, then there's a real chance to win this thing this year.
What about Republicans down ballot? AG, comptroller?
Well, when I got out of the race for governor, I was asked to run for attorney general. I had no interest in it. I practiced law my whole life, and except for until about 8 years ago, and I just didn't have any interest in doing that. But it's similarly difficult. It's even more difficult on the down ballot. Bob Antonacci, who's got the endorsement for the Republicans, Conservatives, and Independents to succeed me now that I'm retiring, he tried a statewide race. It was impossible for him to raise the money that you need to get the visibility, especially in the New York City media market. It's cost a fortune to get any kind of paid TV time. So to convince somebody that has the qualifications, the desire, and knowing the money you have to raise, it's very difficult.
Okay. John, when you were a student, switch to economic issues. When you were a student, Syracuse was the 53rd most populous city in America. I checked, now it's the 175th most populous. What's it going to take to turn that around?
There's got to be a totally different philosophy in the cities. I mean, if you look at every single major city in the state of New York, that's where most of the problems are. You don't have a city that doesn't have major problems. You've got to, you just can't keep providing everything to all people and expect the remainder to be able to afford everything for all people. And I think you translate that statewide as well. If you look, it's not only Syracuse, if you look at the state of New York, we're losing hundreds of thousands of people every year. In fact, it's been accelerating over the last few years. People have just had it with the taxes, the regulation, and in my mind, some of the more progressive philosophies that require more revenues and more from those who are paying taxes. And I think that's what you really need. When big businesses leave a state, like whether it's Carrier or whether it's whatever, new processed gear, they leave because they can't make money. And they can't make money because the tax and regulatory schemes are just too onerous. So to me, statewide, especially in the big cities, to retain some of these companies and jobs, you got to make it possible that they actually can exist and make money and hire people. And that's why I think the time is right now. I think we're going in the exact opposite direction with whether it's raising the minimum wage, whether it's providing free family leave. It's wonderful. I'd love to provide everything to everybody like I do my grandkids. But somebody's got to pay for it, and you got to weigh the balance of the additional benefits. And here's a perfect example: the tip wage. The restaurant owners, the state governor wants to raise the wage of waitresses to the amount of the minimum wage, $15 an hour over time, statewide. And the restaurant owners are saying we can't afford it, and what's going to end up, people won't tip. The tip is not going to be satisfactory, and the waitresses don't want it either. But the governor believes that this is the progressive thing that he should do, and I don't know what's going to happen. He hasn't made his final decision yet, but one burden after another eventually ends up people closing their shops, going elsewhere, and leaving the state and leaving the city.
Well, that is the problem he's described. What's the solution?
Well, the solution is hopefully someone will ultimately be elected that's going to change that philosophy. And to change that philosophy, you've got to reduce taxes, not increase them. You've got to reduce burdens. The Public Service Commission, it's clearly controlled by the governor. And the only issue with the Public Service Commission that's important to them is to be environmentally sound, no matter what the cost may be. I'll give you this you'll get a kick out of. I did. There's all these environmental groups in the state of New York, and they rate legislators based upon their environmental record. I had the audacity to put in a bill that said before you spend money on so-called environmentally sound programs, that you have to do a cost-benefit relationship, a study to show what the cost is and what the benefit is. Real radical thought. It basically should be done with everything. I supported it. I drafted the bill. It never passed both houses. But for that radical bill of mine, I was elected I got the Oil Slick Award from one environmental group saying that I'm the least environmentally sound person. So the philosophy with the PSC and with the governor is basically, it doesn't matter what the costs are. We're going to show that we're the best environmentalists in the world, whether it makes sense cost-wise or not. And, those are the type of things that hurt the state of New York.
Okay. As a senator and as a candidate for governor, you talk to voters all over the state. What do you hear from them that surprises you?
I was surprised at the depth of the dislike for the current governor. And it doesn't even, I've been talking philosophy and issues. It doesn't even go to that point. People just dislike the way he treats people, dislike the way he throws money around for various economic development projects, when they may have their own problems and trying to feed their family with the money that's left over after they have to pay the taxes for all of these particular programs. I was in New York City making various stops, and I went to the subway, and I brought someone with a camera, much like the camera you have here, and just talked to people. And two people, I think they were homeless. If they weren't doing very well. I explained that I'm running for governor, and the man said to me, "You're running for governor against Andrew Cuomo?" I said, "Yes." He knelt on the ground and started doing this. I mean, I'm sure that he wasn't just concerned about the issues that we've been talking about. There was just a genuine dislike for the way he's doing business. And that's why I think this year is ripe for someone to take him out.
Okay, all right. Switching things a little bit, you've been characterized as a pit bull. You actually had your picture taken with a rapper pit bull, I think, to drive the point home. Now, as you're leaving public office, is the pit bull going to remain your spirit animal?
I don't think you can change yourself. I think you are what you are. I probably won't be as aggressive because I won't be engaged in as many things as I have been engaged in for the last 41 years in public office. But people will still hear from me. I'm still going to provide my opinion, and I don't know what my next phase is going to be. Whatever I do, I don't think you can take the pit bull out of me, because I'll be just as aggressive with what I decide I'm going to end up doing.
Alrighty. Now, you've got a tight schedule all the time, so I'm wondering what your schedule look like for January 2nd, 2019.
Well, I think it's going to be pretty light. In fact, recently, now that session is over, I've been taking a little extra time doing things that I never had the chance of doing. But on January 2nd, I'm going to be doing nothing. I'm going to be recovering from watching the football games on January 1st, and I'll be just relaxing at home with my wife. In July 13th, in about 2 weeks, my wife and I will have been married 50 years, and we dated 6 years before that. And I'm not so sure she's that happy that I'm going to be around as much, or a lot more than I was before, but we're going to spend a lot more time together with the family and the kids, and do some traveling.
Wonderful. John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good talk with you.
Appreciate it.